Hi everyone. So in October 2017, I was lucky enough to run my fastest ever half marathon time. I was really pleased. I hadn't trained for it, hadn't planned for that to happen, and I snuck in just under 1 hour 30. It wasn't until after the event that someone told me that was actually a London Marathon Championship place. It wasn't until after they'd told me that I even knew what a championship place was. So I did a bit of research and realised it was basically a guaranteed slot in the race. I'd never considered running in a marathon before. It just wasn't really my cup of tea. But when I thought about it, I realised that there's people that enter the London Marathon ballot years and years in a row unsuccessfully, and here I was being kind of handed that on a plate, and it seemed churlish not to accept it and at least experience it once in my life. So that's what I did. So in April 2018 I was there, stood on the start line just behind Mo Farah and the other elite men, waiting for the Queen to start the race off, and it was an unbelievable experience. That was the hottest marathon on record, and that and various other factors, the fact that it was my first ever race, got all my fueling wrong, just meant that the run itself was terrible, and by halfway I was absolutely dead and sort of walked most of the last 6 miles, so my time was left somewhat to be desired, let's say. So although I was proud to have finished, I had unfinished business with the event and thought, okay, I can use that championship time for another year until it expires, but I'll have a year off, so I deferred, which you're allowed to do, had a rest for 2019 and thought I'll come back in 2020 stronger, better and able to get the time that I wanted. So that's what I did. I trained all over winter, followed a plan, was really strict, and built my miles up, built my base miles up, then my plan kicked in, and then we started to hear these rumours about this coronavirus. What is it? Is it coming over here? And then I don't need to tell you what happens next. Obviously the race got postponed until October. But as time went on, I think we all probably knew it was not going to happen in October. So my training tapered off. I kept the miles up because I didn't want to lose all that I'd built up if I was going to have to run again in October. And then when the time came, I thought, right, it's time to restart the plan again. Or is it? Is it going to happen? You know, who knows? And then obviously we heard that the October race is just now going to be an elite race with this virtual run. So okay, that's fair enough. And what I would assumed would be that everyone who had a place in the April 2020 race would automatically get rolled over into what will now be the October 2021 race. Oh, but that isn't the case. I'm just going to talk about my situation, and I know there's a lot of other sort of scenarios that are playing out, but this one is quite pertinent to me, obviously. Because I qualified for my time pre-January 2019, in the eyes of the London Marathon, I don't deserve that place anymore, and so they're taking it away from me. What does that mean? That means that if I want to run in the next available marathon, I have to qualify again. So it obviously doesn't matter that I've already qualified once, I've got my slot, I've paid for my slot, I'd booked my accommodation. No, that doesn't matter. That's been taken away. I have to qualify again. Okay. If I want to run in the next October race in 2021, I can use a time from the virtual marathon. And when that email first came out, so that meant that I would have to run a marathon in sub 3 hour 15 time, with about 8 weeks notice to train for that time, on roads that aren't closed, unsupported, obviously just by myself around my local streets. If I'd been fit and had been sort of planning to run that speed, then yeah, okay, but that was never my plan for this marathon, was to run my fastest ever, record breaking for me marathon. So it's an impossibility basically. And anyway, so what that means is they've said, oh well, I emailed to complain. They said, oh well, you can qualify again in any other race leading up to October next year. You just have to get your championship time again. Right, okay. There are no races to qualify. If I don't manage to qualify in each subsequent year, they are going to give me a place in the 2023 marathon in 3 years' time, but it won't be a championship start, it'll just be a mass start along with everyone else. Okay, that seems fair. So anyway, an email comes around yesterday, which is the one asking me to make a decision about what I want to do, and they've changed the goalposts again. Now it seems I could qualify doing the virtual race using a half marathon time. That wasn't made clear in the first lot of information that came out. It sort of only suggested you could run a marathon, but now they're saying, oh no, you could run a sub 1 hour 30 half marathon time, but I've not accepted the virtual place now, so that's not an option to me. But I could use a half marathon time going forward, but they've changed the qualifying time and made it even harder. So now I'd have to run a sub 1:28 half marathon to get the same championship place that I'd already qualified for. So it just seems virtually impossible now. Sorry. It's virtually impossible. I'll be able to take up that place. And I feel that it's totally unfair. I don't know how the organisers can justify taking away places from people who've earned them and worked hard to get them, and then worked hard to train for a marathon place that they might never be able to take up. It's unfair. It must be motivated by money, so they can, get fresh entries each year, which they wouldn't get if perhaps they rolled everyone over into the next race. It's just a bitter blow, and it makes me never really want to run the London Marathon again. So whatever they could try and say, the spirit of London should be about inclusivity and helping people to participate in sport, and that's not what it's about at all. It's just a money-making machine, and it feels like the actual individual runners aren't important to them and don't count, and they're not interested in people like me, and they're quite happy to see me lose my spot and all that hard work and effort to just go to waste. So that's my situation. I either re-qualify and run a faster time than I've ever run in my entire life, and as the years tick on, I get a bit older, that gets harder. Or I take a mass start place in 2023. Who knows what I'll be doing in 3 years' time. So it seems to me like I'll just be actually asking for my money back and finding another much friendlier, much more inclusive marathon somewhere else. As you can tell, I'm pretty upset, but it's more frustration about the whole situation and just the unfairness of it. So I just wanted to highlight that to you, and I know there's other people in my position. So sorry for droning on and crying. But it's been a strange few weeks thinking about this, and I've kept it really quite quiet that I was even running the marathon in the first place, but there's no need for it to be a big secret now. There's no pressure, because I probably won't be doing it, so there we go. Thanks, guys.